Inside this box are 3 books which focus on one of the most popular characters in all of pop culture, Venom. Most of us know the name, but a few of us know his backstory or the complicated nature of what drives him. Well, fortunately for us, these 3 books give us exactly what we're looking for, an epic cosmic level story with characters that are extraordinary. We get an in-depth look into the motivations behind Eddie Brock and Venom. Hey guys, I'm Albert, I love comics, and today I have the lucky job of reviewing these 3 marvelous books with you. This is Venom by Donny and Ryan Stegman, an absolute masterpiece of a book about Venom. This right here is absolute carnage, and this is the King in Black Omnibus. Before I jump into this review, I really want to say thank you to those at Organic Price Books for sending me these 3 books for review for your page. I love talking about comic books, and this is just a really good opportunity for me to share with you some of my thoughts about it, some of the character motivations, some of the major plot points. Let's get into it. So this story, Venom, it starts off with an introduction of the character Knull, the god of symbiotes. He is an ancient deity who existed before the universe itself. Open, empty space was his dominion, and when the Celestials created a universe in it, he wasn't happy. Right off the bat, we learn that this character is more powerful than the Celestials. And by the way, those are some of the most powerful characters in all of Marvel Comics. So why is he called the god of symbiotes? It's because he literally created them. Out of the darkness, he forged a sword and armor out of the symbiotes and literally cut the throats of creation. He was eventually defeated, but he learned that if he was able to bond his symbiotes to lesser creatures, he'd be able to tap into a new source of power. He could literally pilot these new forms and control countless beings from across galaxies. He could observe the greater universe, and he called it a hive mind. But when one of his symbiotes on Earth was struck by the god of lightning, Thor, his connection to the hive mind was broken, and the symbiotes got a taste of freedom. They learned about honor and nobility, and eventually they rebelled against Knull. Countless symbiotes engulfed Knull in what looks like a planet, but really it's a cage, and Knull is at the center of it, but he is still connected to one of his symbiotes, and it's on Earth. Early on in the story, a message is projected to all the symbiotes. God is coming. This epic, massive cosmic story is absolutely thrilling. Throughout the 1,300 pages that are made up in this book, Eddie Brock behaves like a hero. He is selfless, he is brave, he is not afraid to sacrifice himself. But what makes Eddie the most interesting character is that he is deeply flawed. This story focuses on his character, his origins, his motivations, and his personal relationships with his family and with Venom. In his original introduction to comics in 1988, he was a villain and he was not afraid to go after the personal life of Peter Parker. He was filled with rage and he was also dealing with thoughts of suicide. But always throughout his destruction, behind all of the mental health issues that he was dealing with, behind his villainy, he always made an intentional effort to protect the innocent. In this book, we learn why that is, and it's incredibly sad. Late one evening, a young and drunk Eddie Brock is out drinking with his buddies, and right outside his home, Eddie hits a young boy with his car, and he is instantly killed. The guilt absolutely crushes Eddie, and he plans to plead guilty in court, but his father violently forces Eddie to plead for his innocence, and he gets away with it. Eddie, for the rest of his life, is seeking redemption. But this story gives Eddie an additional reason to fight. Early on in the story, we are introduced to another new character named Dylan Brock. He's introduced to Eddie as his younger brother. That child has grown up in the same abusive household that Eddie did. So obviously he takes him under his wings and he makes it his mission to make the world a better place for him. Reading stories that are centered about family is just always so relatable, and I'm really glad that they found some time to focus on this element of Eddie Brock. But another character who I was completely just fascinated with in the story was Venom, and his relationship with Eddie was very complicated. One of the things that I learned about the Venom symbiote is that it can heal Eddie from any physical ailments that he might have, but it can also do the same for his mental health. It can control the chemicals in his brain. It can put him into a coma or take him out of a coma. It can remove really disturbing memories, and it can implant some too. It leads to some really interesting conflicts and drama in the book. Again, I wasn't expecting it. It's also really cool to see Eddie Brock interacting with people like Peter Parker. It's just, he literally was trying to kill him before, and now he's kind of like his boy. So it's interesting. But really, what you should know about this story is that it is massive in scale. It is epic. It is awesome. But it's really just focused on Eddie Brock and his character, and it is incredibly engaging. It's well written. It's fast paced. I honestly think that everybody will love this story. We should talk about the artwork a little bit too. Ryan Stegman does it for most of this book. And I remember growing up, I would always trace images of Venom. His character design is just so wild and loose and like not really rooted in biology sometimes. Ryan Stegman draws it better than I think anybody could ever imagine. Honestly, I think Ryan was born to draw Venom. I know it sounds like I'm just gushing over this book right now, but honestly, it just left me with all these positive feelings. I really liked it. The last thing I'll say about Ryan Stegman's artwork is that it was very easy to kind of feel like you were in a horror story. Every page was very dark and it's ominous, and it made it really easy to kind of get yourself into that world of darkness that Eddie Brock is probably feeling in his head. Okay, let's talk about Absolute Carnage now. In this story, it begins with Cletus Cassidy, who's been dead for a long time, receiving a symbiote of Knull, one of the old ones. What ends up happening is that Carnage kind of takes over, and he is now more powerful than ever before, and he is on a mission to get every single character who has ever worn a symbiote and to take the data from their DNAs, use that information to free Knull from his cage. So in this story, it is not just Venom, it is not just Spider-Man. We have tons and tons of characters from the Marvel Universe who have worn the Venom suit or the symbiote suit, and Carnage is going after them. Fans of Carnage know that he is a complete psychopath. The character was inspired by the design of the Joker. So he is just a complete psycho. He kills. He's extremely powerful in this. This is a good story. I don't really want to say more about it because really the main story is just 5 issues. You know the premise of it. It's a wild one. If you really want to see every single issue that was ever related to this, in 2019, Marvel basically interrupted all production of their comics just to really focus on this book over here. So if you want to read this, you're not going to be unhappy. It's pretty good. Okay, and lastly, let's go over the King in Black story. Now, if you look at this, King in Black, this omnibus is actually bigger than the Venom book. It's huge. Similar to the Absolute Carnage book, the main story is just 5 issues. It is a conclusion of the Venom storyline by Donny and Ryan Stegman. It is really hard to talk about this one because I don't really want to give any spoilers, but I mean, it's kind of predictable. You should know that Knull does come to Earth, and there is an absolute wild battle that happens with it. You have a god of symbiotes, a character that was there before creation, who is battling against people. The battle is absolutely bonkers, and the writer Donny Cates had to get really creative. I remember reading it and I was thinking it would be really cool to put this as a live action movie. But honestly, I think it's too grand in scale. I mean, we have Celestials. Name a single Marvel character. They were all involved in this. I mean, literally, like all of these pages here are filled up with stories from Moon Knight and Hulk and more. Like every character you can think of was involved in this storyline. It was massive. It was big. So like I said, it's just 5 issues of the main story, but every character was involved. So if you're a completionist, you want to see how this one event impacted the greater Marvel universe, this is what you need. So yeah, these 3 books right here are some of my favorites in my collection now. This was a phenomenal story. I really, really enjoyed it. I think you will too. I really mean that. At the very least, get this one over here. It has the entire story. It has both of these included in it. These have the tie-ins, so these are like more supplemental for you. If you're a completionist, throw it on your shelf and know that you got the entire storyline right here. If you want the meat and potatoes of it all, it's going to be in here too. There's no wrong decision here. So if you are interested in buying these books, the place to do it is Organic Price Books. They have heavily discounted books that you can buy for a fraction of the cost. My favorite thing about their website is that it is very user-friendly. The staff is very, very communicative. So if you have any questions or concerns about your order, you can always reach out. And they reply pretty quickly. I was just talking to JP from Organic Price Books, and he was telling me that they try to send out the book same day or the next day, like to the post office. That's it, guys. Thank you for hanging out, and I'll see you next time.